people have spoken. I did ask earlier in the deadline stream if you wanted to see a reaction tonight, and yeah, a lot of you in the live chat did say that you wanted to see more content, so here we are. The full focus will shift to UCL Fantasy from Sunday onwards, so I'll be preparing a best team video there, combining the Limitless and Wildcard for matchday 15, the first leg of the semi-finals, and also my own team selection where I've got 5 free transfers and I've used all chips remaining in UCL Fantasy. The same goes for FPL, where I just activated the free here, and despite a decent return, 59 points so far, with 3 left to play and Salah captain, there was still a few gripes I have. Of course, Jimenez being the main one. Not too many regrets about Palmer, despite the blank and another underwhelming performance. I think he played better in terms of his actual, play, but no goals or assists to show for it, and ultimately, there were a few, obviously, problems with my bench. You can see Jose Sarr there with 12 points. Thank you very much, Jamie Vardy. It wasn't even a terrible penalty. It was a great penalty saved by Jose Sarr, who atoned for his error after he conceded that penalty spot. And then, yeah, Cucurella got a clean sheet, 6 points there. And I could see Cliver also coming back to bite me there. And benching him for Raul Jimenez has probably ended up being a terrible decision. But focusing on the positives, Nick Pope in goal, covering that Newcastle clean sheet. 8 Nura, of course, getting 11. Same with Sessegnon, who left it late and definitely was worth the punt. And in the midfield, I mean, Jacob Murphy won a penalty, but that's about it. He outscored Barnes by 3 points, so it's something. I didn't captain Isak, which was my idea throughout most of the week, and I'm expecting Salah to better that 6-pointer, which is quite underwhelming when you consider everything. And fair play to those Cunha captainers, 15 points with 1 goal and 2 assists, and they were of good quality. So yeah, I think overall it has been a high-scoring week for a lot of us, higher than I expected. But I did have Trippier in my team. I mean, you could just say that about anyone. Oh, I had this player in my draft and all of that. You can't regret it too much. But of course, after making a few errors, especially with Jimenez, you do kind of look back on it and think, if I did this, this could have been an amazing week. But I have closed in on the top 100k. I'm around 16 points away from that kind of rank, so that is going to be my aim, to claw back that deficit as much as possible. I think the triple up in Liverpool can help me, but I'm not fully convinced about Trent starting, so that could end up being another maybe regretful decision, so to speak. But we'll talk about our ideas and also how things are going so far in Blank Gameweek 34 and our initial plans for Gameweek 35, which will be a normal game week, and that'll be followed up by a double in 36 and a blank in 37. So Easy does kick things off with several messages, and he says 64 points with Van Dijk, Kirkis, Salah and Vissa left. That's a good platform. Assuming that you've got Salah captain as well, I'd be very confident of a green arrow. Otherwise, that could actually be slightly concerning because his effective ownership is very high. Van Dijk replacing Robinson from the bench. Yeah, in the end, actually, I'm not too happy about Robinson missing out because, for example, in head-to-head, I'm facing somebody who's got 8 Nuri coming off the bench, so that's made things much more difficult for me to win that, but it's still possible. There are rumours that Robinson's fiancée was due birth. That's why he wasn't in the squad. Yeah, it had to be some personal reason or a late injury, so I wasn't aware of that particular reason, but it's a shame he missed out, to be fair. Yeah, the chat did warm about Palmer, and you said about Raul Jimenez. My main regret is Jimenez, though, because I did have Cliver in my 11 throughout most of the week, and I changed it, and I can see him really punishing me tomorrow. United need to get Cunha. I need to sell Palmer for Bowen. Yeah, but we actually discussed this in the deadline stream earlier with other United fans and also people who mentioned the rumours. He does have an attitude problem, so you get brilliance at times, and he's got that kind of game-winning ability, but he can also be, well, very ill-disciplined, get yellow cards and reds out of nowhere, and also fall out of managers and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know him personally, but he does have that sort of thing about him, which we've seen on multiple occasions this season. FPL Kevy says, can't lie, no therapy needed just yet. Cook with 65 points for Bruggen, my only blank so far. Yeah, that's a good score, and it's good to hear. This is not just designed to be a therapy session, believe it or not. We also want to celebrate wins and also enjoy FPL, if that's even possible. And Verbruggen being your only blank, that's obviously a good place to be. I've only got 2 blanks so far, but I'm probably more frustrated than you are with the players I've got in my 11, particularly Jimenez. Yeah, Verbruggen I was never a big fan of, to be fair. I got rid of him, of course, because he is in my normal team, and the sooner I get rid of him, the better. But I've got other fires to put out with my normal squad, so I'm not sure if I'll even get to that by the end of the season. And of course, you had Bowen as well, right? You got 2 assists, so you got something from that game. But we talked about this in the deadline stream earlier, and you kind of were locked in with your squad, went for some differentials, and for the most part, it paid off. Fulham fooled us all. Well, Sessegnon did well, and Iwobi got an assist, so not too shabby. I mean, Jimenez, yeah, massive disappointment and a flop. I wish I didn't go for him. But yeah, Leno in goal, of course I get it. Robinson missing out. If you had that bench cover though, like I said, someone I'm facing has Aït-Nouri coming off the bench, then it's not too shabby. But I get your point. They were underwhelming. They went behind against Southampton and struggled a little bit more than we expected. But I think if you went for Sessegnon, you're still pretty happy. Yeah, Manon, and if it wasn't for him, I think this week would look pretty bleak for me. I was on a very small green arrow before Sessegnon's goal. Now it's a bit more significant of around 15, 16,000 places, so I'm very happy that he did the goods. Bosuno says 63 points of Mbumo, Salah captain, and Diaz left. I like that. I think Salah captain can easily get you a double-digit haul or perhaps 8 points. I think Diaz, if he starts, is also looking very promising, but I'm quite concerned actually about Trent and a little bit of Diaz with the minutes, but maybe that's because I've had a few things not go according to plan, so I need these remaining players to do the job against Spurs. Master Man says, I have 72 points, that's really good. Trippier killed me, but you got 72 points. You can't cover them all. I did have Trippier until the last 2 minutes, maybe the last minute of the deadline stream. And obviously, in hindsight, it would have been brilliant if I went for Jose Sarr in goal, which I was really considering, and doubling up on that Wolves defence, going for Trippier at the back with Sessegnon and Aït-Nouri, and going for a different striker than Jimenez. But you can't have it all perfect. I did say this in the deadline stream earlier. It is possible to have 11 players in your starting 11 all hauling, but it's very difficult to achieve, and realistically, you will have some blanks in there. So hopefully, the remaining players we have can do the business. Basuno also says, Sessegnon killed me just at the end, but massive green arrow nonetheless. Yeah, we all have that sort of player that's maybe been a bit frustrating this week of not owning. Trippier is one of them for me, getting 2 assists and, you know, assists of real quality as well. But yeah, you got the green arrow, a massive one at that, so that is the most important thing. Yeah, not too shabby, Sadiq. I mean, I got a green arrow, and assuming that Liverpool do the job and Trent, Diaz and Salah all start, I'd be fairly confident I can secure a green, but still a few regrets, mainly Jimenez. I'll try not to say that again, but that's pretty much just the honest truth. With Palmer, yeah, maybe I could have gone a bit different, but ultimately I don't have that many regrets about him because I still would have gone for him in most scenarios. But yeah, it's just that final forward that I've pretty much lacked there. But I'm happy I did certain things. For example, go for Sessegnon. I covered Newcastle defensively. Maybe, you know, by the end of tomorrow, Diaz and Trent Hall, and I'm also very positive about those additions. Murphy over Barnes is a small win, albeit not that much in the grand scheme of things. And not captaining Isak might turn out to be a great decision if Salah gets a goal tomorrow. So yeah, as Masterman says, what is everyone's rank? Leave it in the live chat. Also, talk about your points and the things you liked about this week, the things you don't like. I'm in the mud with no free hit, says Sonika, 1.2 million. Which players did he go for, though? I've seen some non-free hitters with pretty decent scores, but yeah, it seems like a lot of the popular assets like Trippier, Aït-Nouri, I mean, in the midfield, that's probably been a bit underwhelming, but in that forward line and defence, we've actually seen a lot of big hauls so far. All right, let's see if I can actually catch up to the chat. I'm going to have to whiz through some of these, but that is the aim. Wagwan says London W4. All good. Hopefully you are doing even better. I'm 97k. That's really good. 17.7k for me, says Cole Palmer. Shame he blanked, but nice rank. Yeah, the bench is already rough. I mean, that's outscored my bench boost from 2 weeks ago. I think Kluivert will do well tomorrow. So, yeah, I'm not really that looking forward to it. If there was a chip like in F1 where you can like make a final change to your team, it'd be Kluivert in for Jimenez, but unfortunately you can't do that. Sarr, Sessegnon, Iwobi, Cucurella all on the bench, plus Palmer captain. Aye. And you're a Chelsea fan. I mean, you got the win. Congratulations, but that bench is horrendous. And mine isn't much better so far. I mean, yeah, I could be in a similar situation by the end of tomorrow if Kirkes keeps a clean sheet and Kluivert gets an attacking return. Arthur says, hi Dylan, this game week really gave me a bench boost. Forget that, Chip. Gave me a boost. 92 points, that's an incredible score. Cunha captain, 26 points on the bench, plus 400k rank. That's a crazy score, even on the bench. But that doesn't really matter because you've got that green arrow locked in and a great captaincy score, so fair play. I think Salah can better Cunha tomorrow, but I mean, if I had to guess now one way or the other, I don't think he gets more than 15 points. And if that's the case, I mean, you're flying, so really well done. 81 with Salah, Trent and Diaz to go. Yeah, great position to be in too. 100 plus points is attainable. Thoughts on Palmer? You're going to change him to someone else? No, because he's not on my team anymore. I did sell him to Saka very recently. I'm not buying him back, so he'll probably do well, by the way, between Game Weeks 35 and 38. And then people are saying, why didn't you do this on the free hit for me or when I owned you earlier this season? Well, Palmer's been in poor form. No goals in 17 games across all competitions. Yeah, I mean, very, very strange. I never expected him to drop off that badly in terms of his goal scoring, but he is still a young player. Weiseng says, I'm so freaking close to captaining Cunha plus getting Jackson when I said Jackson has a better XGI than Cunha and Strand Larsen. Damn it. Yeah, but Cunha's XGI isn't that great and he got 15 points and I don't see anybody really bettering him except maybe Salah, and that could be a push. But yeah, Jackson, he did get the goal and he also scored in that 6-0 win against Everton last season. But look, he was completely out of form and he scores. So was Cole Palmer, completely out of form, but unfortunately he doesn't get a return. So in FPL, sometimes it's guesswork. You need a bit of luck on your side there. And yeah, good decisions and skill does come into it, but not all the time. Ruler 2 says 82 points of Salah Diaz left. Cunha is my hero this season. Yeah, not for me. Chris Wood is probably right up there, but he might change that on Thursday night. But we'll see how that happens. Yeah, 82 points, solid platform. A lot of high scores flying around and a lot of green arrows as well. Gary's just saying Cunha. I think that's probably more than needs to be said. Joe says, on a massive green arrow, gone from 100k to 70k overall. Only regrets were I picked Livramento over Trippier and I didn't start Bowen. Who did you start over Bowen, though? I mean, if it was Palmer or Jimenez, fair enough, but I completely understand starting Palmer instead. And yeah, green arrows galore, which is good to see. A lot of times in these reaction streams, we talk about red arrows and sob stories and stuff like that. But yeah, this is a bit more positive, I guess. You should have bench boost. Well, you can't manage because I've free hitted this week. And if I bench boosted with my normal team, I would have got 0 points. Goldhead says, I benched Semedo and Sessegnon with triple Liverpool to play, Van Dijk, Salah Diaz. Yeah, and that's why people tend to go really cheap on their bench. You know, you don't want to see this sight. 12 points from your backup goalkeeper, Jose Sarr, and I was so close to starting him. And obviously, in hindsight, it would have been brilliant going for him and Trippier simultaneously whilst keeping Aitner and Sessegnon, but chances are I would have changed things a little bit with my other defenders and maybe dropped Sessegnon, which I also considered during the deadline stream. And with Robinson missing out completely, that secured it secured Sessegnon's minutes at left back. You need luck. I mean, even Sessegnon's goal at the end with that header, you need an element of luck to go your way sometimes. Bowen differential, yeah, that's good. 2 assists. I mean, Bowen was under consideration. He was ranked higher than the likes of Mbeumo for me. And if I were to change my midfield, it would have been Bowen in for Palmer or Kluivert. But in the end, I stuck with it. Not many regrets so far, but I think benching Kluivert for Jimenez is going to be one of them. FC FPL Ethiopia says, got 71 points on free hit, 10k overall. Leonard to Sanchez and Cucurella to Sessegnon worked out well as my last minute changes. Yeah, and look, Cucurella still did fairly well, getting a clean sheet. Close to bonus points as well, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that duo you brought in did even better. I have almost the same team with Jose Sarr starting and Barnes for Palmer. Yeah, so Barnes-Palmer, the exact same, but that Jose Sarr 12-pointer is massive. Should I sell Mateta and best replacement? Well, he got the assist today, missed the penalty against Aston Villa in the FA Cup semi-final, scored a brilliant goal against Arsenal in Double Gameweek 33 off the bench. But yeah, Crystal Palace are a difficult team to predict at times. When they're streaky and in form, you know, they are right on it, and they were up until Game Week 32, basically, and let us down for the Double Gameweeks. But it just depends, because with Mateta, I wouldn't be looking at Cunha necessarily right now. I know he's still a good asset, and I don't think he's a bad transfer in, but I think I'd rather buy Chris Wood from now until the end of the season. With Cunha, the main appeal was Leicester, which of course has just gone by. Ivan says, I have 82 points, Captain Isak, with only Salah to play. Also had Bowen. Yeah, good stuff. I don't regret the Jimenez shout, though. Also had him instead of Kluivert, who's on my bench. Well, Jimenez had, I think, 7 shots in the end, maybe 6, and he missed a big opportunity, so very frustrated with him, but he has been a poor asset for quite some time now, just like Cole Palmer, but you're supposed to predict these, you know, returns. You look at the fixture, the form, and other factors coming into play, and both Jimenez and Palmer have good records against their respective opponents, especially Raul, but he just didn't do the job this time. Shergar says 60 points with the same Liverpool, triple as you, but Sessegnon on the bench. It goes to show there are different avenues to points this week, which is good to see, but we all ultimately went for the same kind of teams, loaded up on Wolves, Newcastle, Liverpool, and some people went all in on Fulham. Yeah, I went for 2 of them, and Sessegnon did the business, but yeah, it's just 1 point against Southampton. It's really frustrating, but I don't think it was a bad pick going for Raul Jimenez. And also other forwards like Welbeck, for example, blanked in a 2-2 draw. I think Evanesson can do well tomorrow. Strand Larsen got 6 points, which is decent. Don't get me wrong, I'd rather have that than a 1-pointer, but still nothing spectacular there. Thunder11 says Barnes versus Murphy was a hard decision. Thankfully, it was only 3 points more. Yeah, exactly that. I mean, sometimes we focus a lot on certain questions, which is understandable. I think Barnes-Murphy was definitely a great topic to talk about this week, but I only gained 3 points from it, but thankfully I was on the luckier side there. But then again, I lost out on other areas, particularly up front, and also not going for Trippier and sticking with him, which was my original plan. I'm finished. April is a nightmare. I mean, yeah, we talked about this earlier in the deadline stream. Double Gameweek 33 was frustrating, and also Matchday 14 in UCL Fantasy, but other than that, it has been a fairly positive month so far from a fantasy perspective, and hopefully things are going well for you outside FPL, right? Funny how Sarr all of a sudden is a god. Well, actually, he's got 5 goals against Aston Villa this season in 3 appearances and 1 assist. He just loves playing against them. Actually, he's got 2 assists now because of the FA Cup semi-final today. He just loves playing against them, and Aston Villa were absolutely shocking today. Raul, my only blank. That's a good position to be in, but it's always a bit frustrating, even if you only have 1 blank, because you kind of think, oh, this could be a spectacular week, but it probably is still going very well for you. Thunder says 73 points with Salah captain, Diaz and Wood. I'd be very confident. Salah's not my captain, Isak is. Yeah, so there could be a slight concern there, and anything Salah does will result in a rank drop. Anything he does will basically cost you, so you're actually hoping for a Salah blank despite owning him. Ahmed says, crazy day, 77 points of Salah captain and Diaz left. Palmer and Roll blank is so frustrating. Yes, but 77 points is a great platform for a green arrow and also just building that foundation for future game weeks, so it's not too shabby. Having Sai helped, yes it did, but unfortunately for me, means nothing because he's on my bench, but we all have our kind of heroes and villains for Blank Gameweek 34. Mitchie says, was sad not to buy Trippier, but happy with Sessegnon. Well, that's the thing, right? I also did something similar where I sold Trippier to Sessegnon. In an ideal world, I would have both of them and drop Trent Alexander-Arnold, for example, but you can't have it all, and it's easy to say things in hindsight, right? With Jimenez, I think that was one of my calls that throughout the week, I wasn't entirely sure about him. He was originally on my bench in my team selection video 2 days ago, but other than that, not many regrets from my part. Hopefully Trent starts tomorrow. Or he completely misses out, but then if Kirkes does nothing against United, it means nothing anyway. I have Wood on Thursday as well. He's got 2 goals against Brentford in his career. Not a great record, but sometimes records mean zilch. I mean, look at Palmer and Jimenez, for example. Only Barnes blanked with Mitoma on my bench. Yeah, Mitoma came on as a substitute and scored a header, surprisingly, to equalise for Brighton. It was a high-scoring thriller. I actually predicted 2-2 for that game. I'll probably show you my predictions very soon. And I was on course to get several predictions right. I said 2-0 Wolves, then it went to 3-0. I did say 3-1 Fulham. Of course, it was a 2-1 win. So the only result I got right so far is Chelsea 1, Everton 0. Captain says 75 points with 5 players to go. Hope to hit 123 points. Very specific number you're aiming for, but yeah, I think 100 plus points is attainable. It's not a guarantee though. Gary says 1 more point. United says, hey Dylan, 83 points this week for me. How's your team? Okay, I mean, it's not great. 59 points is a decent score, enough for a green arrow at the moment, but I need those Liverpool players to deliver tomorrow. And yeah, if Trent starts, I'm fairly confident I can get 70 to 80 points, but it's nothing spectacular. Went for Livramento and Strand Larsen. Trippier and Cunha crushed me big time. Well, that's the thing, right? People are quick to talk about differentials, and some people might have gone, you know what, instead of Cunha, who's going to be very template this week, I'll go for Strand Larsen, and that has backfired massively, despite Strand Larsen scoring. And yeah, for example, in my case, I know Jimenez might not seem like a massive differential, but if we look at his ownership, it's still relatively low. And maybe with a free hit, it'd be significantly higher, but 7.9% ownership, and he's just been a terrible asset for quite some time. The same goes for Palmer, who definitely isn't a differential, but yeah, you went for good picks, but ultimately Trippier and Cunha, they have that massive ceiling, and unfortunately they both delivered at the same time. Ahmed says, and Trippier helped as well. Yeah, don't remind me, I sold the guy in the last minute or two in the deadline stream. For Sessegnon, which isn't too bad, and I bought Pope for Leno. So in the end, I've actually not lost out on points when you look at it as a duo, but yeah, like I said, in a dream world, I had both of them and I'm celebrating the points, but now I can't do that with Trippier. Omar says, I went for Diaz instead of Bowen. Getting nervous. Well, it is a possibility that both Diaz and Trent are benched tomorrow. I couldn't guarantee that they both start. I'm more confident about Diaz than Trent. Hopefully they both start, and yeah, they can get some big returns. Dom J1013 says, on 83 points on free hit with Salah, Diaz left to play. Yeah, once again, another great score and similar players left, but doesn't really matter. The green arrow is also done. Provit says, I'm sappy. I was so happy with my pick of Trippier over Sessegnon, just for the latter to score last minute. Yeah, but you still gain 4 points from it, so it's still a small win. You might not be top of the mini league yet, but there's still time for that. Easy says, right now, last double game week, 2.1 million to 1.6 million right now. Yeah, I mean, despite my frustrations this week, I'm still more positive about it than double game week 33, which I had high hopes for, but it just didn't really turn out to be the case. Yeah, under 11. I mean, good luck, but hopefully Cliver does blank, which I'm very, very apprehensive about. I don't think he will. Yeah, Joseph on my bench. The less said about that, the better. Can we plan for game week 35? I'm guessing that is. Well, we can, but of course, we can have initial ideas. This is our reaction to game week 34 so far and discussing our plans for game week 35. But I think in terms of concrete ideas and solutions and transfers, it's better to leave that, of course, for the deadline stream. But, of course, we are here to discuss questions and answers. Captain says, I have Sarr, Trippier, Nuri, Sessegnon, Cunha, Isak, and triple Liverpool to go, and Salah captain and Boomer and Vissa. Yeah, I wouldn't be worried at all. 70 points with Salah captain and Diaz left. Good score, good players left. Diaz might not start, but I think he will, and hopefully he does. Munoz is such a machine. Watched that cup semi-final, and he made run after run and still sprinting in the 97th minute. Yeah, I might actually start him in game week 35 over Saliba, but I'm not that confident of Palace or Arsenal keeping a clean sheet there. But yeah, Munoz, he is a good FPL asset for a reason with the attacking potential, like we saw with Nuri this week, but I'd rank Munoz even higher in most game weeks. SH says 38 points of 7 to go, 178% rank drop to 1.8k on a wildcard this game week. Free has crushed it. Yeah, I'm surprised by it, to be fair. You've got 7 left, though. It looks terrible now, but depending on who the 7 players are, I'd still be fairly confident in your case of minimizing the damage a little bit. I'm not saying you'll get a green arrow, but you can get close to where you were beforehand, and you're still at 1.8k, so a great position to be in. Should I sell Mateta or hold? I don't know who your other forwards are, how many transfers you got left. I think that would also give me a better idea of what I'd recommend, but I think Mateta isn't a priority sell. You don't have to sell him, but having said that, I'd rather go to Chris Wood. I still prefer Isak. And you've also got a few other forwards that can outscore him from now until the end of the season, but there aren't that many standouts in that position. I know Cunha looked brilliant today, but I think the best game week and fixture has gone past him, and there could be some disappointments in the likes of game week 35, for example, but it just depends who you have already. For example, if you don't have Chris Wood, I'd recommend him over Mateta. Who knows says 69 on the free hit with Salah, Lucho, sells left, Raul, Palmer, only blanks. Nicely done. Dom says 14k rank. Of course, Salah scored a brace in the FA Cup and not last weekend. He just loves playing against Villa. I'm not sure why, but 5 goals and 2 assists against them this season in just 3 games. He has never blanked. And Unai Emery has a poor record against Palace, if I'm not mistaken. He lost 5-0 to them last season in Game Week 38. During his time at Arsenal, he lost to them several times. And also this season. I'm not sure why. Different managers and stuff, but Crystal Palace is a bogey team for him. Alex says, looks like there's no doubles in 36 and blanks in 37. Free at 38 could be a fun little differential, says Alex ND. Well, Game Week 38 is always a underrated time to use the free hit. That's for sure. But with Aston Villa, we needed them to reach the FA Cup final to have that double with them and Spurs, and that hasn't been the case. 668k to 295k in 6 game weeks. Very nice rank rise, Fonda. Hopefully you can keep on pushing and use that momentum to wrap up this season very nicely. I've gone from 100k to 70k. Good rank rise as well. And there are still some games left tomorrow and on Thursday to wrap things up too. Dower says, thinking of taking out Sarr and Mateta for Mbuma and Wood Cunha. Thoughts on which attackers are the best to go for? Mbuma and Wood. I know Cunha looked brilliant today, but I think if I'm buying a forward now, it would be Chris Wood, and Mbeumo is arguably the best midfielder from now until the end of the season, especially at his price. Now, I'm actually tempted to go for Mbeumo and Bowen at the same time, but that would require a -4 hit in my case. United says I started in Game Week 14, so very late, but massive green arrow this week, up to just under 1 million. I mean, that's a very impressive rank, actually, considering you missed a lot of game weeks. So, yeah, that's very impressive. Virat says I have 56 points. I have Isak captain. Yeah, decent score. Isak a bit underwhelming as a captain. Only scored a penalty, but at least he returned. Sonika says Bowen, Isak, Murphy, and Livramento 24 points. I need Bournemouth clean sheet and Mbeumo Wood to do something. I'm actually hoping for the opposite of all of those things you're hoping for, but it goes to show, right? We're all selfish. We all want our own thing. And ultimately, yeah, I'm still going to be a bit disappointed and regretful about certain things with my free hit team, but only 2 blanks so far and some decent hauls. But yeah, I think 59 points isn't really a great score in the grand scheme of things. Danny says 62 points, pretty good. Yeah, and if you've got a lot of players left, I think that's there's cause for optimism. Let's put it that way. I'm never ever getting Palmer again this season. That's fair enough. I don't blame you, but watch him score in the next couple of weeks. So as Easy said at the beginning of the stream, Vera, apparently his wife went into labour, or she's expected to be giving birth soon. But I don't know the ins and outs of that. It had to be an injury or a personal reason for him to be dropped for the first time this season. FPL Kevy says, yeah, mate, had to take a -4 this week, and my bench is Arsenal City players, so not too bad so far, and Bowen went huge for me. Yeah, Bowen does fairly well against Brighton. I know West Ham ended up losing, but Bowen still did the business. 2 great crosses, especially the second one for Thomas Soucek. Ruler2 says, do you think the idea of a chip that lets you sub on off your players and change captain for a week? Well, there is a similar booster in F1 Fantasy. It's called Final Fix, but it happens after qualifying and before the race. So it's kind of a similar idea in principle. I mean, I definitely would love it this week. Don't get me wrong. I'd take Jimenez out without any hesitation, but I'm not sure most people in FPL would agree with that. Best teams to target for the remaining game weeks. Well, that's a good segue for the FDR, the fixture difficulty rating. So let's see the updated version. So let's actually update it myself since it's still on Game Week 34. So West Ham are now top with Man City, Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest and Crystal Palace in the top 5. We've got Spurs, Wolves, Ipswich Town, Everton and Bournemouth in the top 10. Looking at those near the bottom, Chelsea, Liverpool, Brighton, Newcastle and Arsenal. So some very decent teams in there. But some of those teams, like Arsenal, for example, face Southampton away in Game Week 38. You've got Newcastle facing Everton at home and Liverpool facing Crystal Palace at home. So good fixtures for some of those teams that are bottom of the FDR. In terms of what I'd say, I mean, would I recommend targeting West Ham? Not really, but Jarrod Bowen, for example, would be a great pick. Also Brentford, who, let's see, they're kind of mid-table here in 12th. I'd recommend Brian Mbeumo and Vissa. So I'd recommend those 2 teams and specifically those assets. Man City, yeah, for the next week or 2. But remember, by the way, because they do have provisional doubles in 36 and stuff like that in Fantasy Football Hub, that also influences the rankings. And I wouldn't be looking too much into it. So I think with the FDR, there will be some changes over the coming days. And I think Brentford, for example, would be very highly ranked here. Looking at the other options, I think Forest. I'm still like Forest. So Chris Wood and Milenkovic, even going for a triple up with Sells and goal or Elanga. I'm very happy with that. So yeah, off the top of my head, I'd say Nottingham Forest, then go for 1 or 2 at Brentford attackers in Mbeumo and Vissa. And for West Ham, Jarrod Bowen. That's the sort of thing I'd be looking at. Man City I still like, facing Wolves at home and Southampton away over the next 2. So that looks pretty decent, actually. Those are the 4 teams I'd be looking at right now. With predicted points, Salah is top for Game Week 35 with 6.9. Saka is second, joint second with Palmer. Isak, Mbeumo, Vissa, Marmoush, Cunha, De Bruyne, Mateta complete the top 10. I might keep Mateta for 1 more week at least and then reassess the situation, which I'll show you very briefly using fpl.team. But before I do that, let's talk about assistant managers. If you still have the chip available and no other boosters left, I'd recommend using it in Game Week 35 or 36. Do not use the AM in 37 because it is a free Game Week booster, and if you use it in 37, you only get 2 Game Weeks from arguably the most powerful chip in the game, at least in the short term. So Game Week 35 or 36, which time is better? I'd probably just use it now, but then again, you might have another chip remaining that you want to use. And you could do something like Game Week 35, 37, Assistant Manager, then free hit in Game Week 38, for example. Ursula is second, Postecoglou third, Glasner fourth, and Arteta fifth, but it's Pep Guardiola who is top for the next 3 game weeks, as Man City are heavily favoured in the FDR2. And if we look at the bottom teams and managers, we've got Juric, aka the Southampton manager, Eddie Howe, Silva, McKenna, and Nuno Espirito Santo. But yeah, that is what Fantasy Football Hub have gone for with their assistant manager chip. Now, with price changes, a lot of these might not actually happen because I think a lot of these players were bought in on the free hit. But Trippier, Van Dijk, and Sessegnon could go up in price tonight, whilst Marmoush, Mateta, Saka, Asensio, Munoz, Sarr, Dean, Eze, Saliba, Savio could all go down. The same goes for Dubravka, Gabriel, Quansah, Joao Pedro. But I would take that with a pinch of salt. And what I'm actually going to do is check live fpl.net very quickly. So they are expecting Trippier, Sessegnon, and Milenkovic to go up, and similar names to go down. Wan-Bissaka this time, if I'm not mistaken. Disasi to go down. Roman Esse, McAteer, Yaros, James Justin, Samari, and Morgan Rogers. But the other players I mentioned in the Fantasy Football Hub section are also in this list too, according to livefpl.net. Let's take a quick look at the captaincy stats for the top 10k, and Salah has been captained by 78.5% of the game. Isak in second with only 16%, which is a bit surprising. I thought it'd be a little bit closer than that, but I'm fairly happy for now that I captained Salah over Isak. But of course, Mateus Cunha, who is third in this list with 15 points. That'll be very tough to beat, even for Mohamed Salah against Tottenham. We've also got, well, Marmoush is fourth. That'll be a lot of dead teams there in the top 10k. Murphy in fifth. Also some blankers there like Harvey Barnes, who got 3 points. Saka not featuring this week. We'll see how Diaz gets on tomorrow. Cole Palmer, of course, blanking once more. No goals in 17 successive matches across all competitions. His last Premier League goal was in January, I think the 14th against Bournemouth, and that was in Game Week 21. So let's take a quick look at fpl.team. And this is how my team looks like right now. I've got Raya in goal against Bournemouth and a triple up in Arsenal with Saliba and Saka. I've also got Milenkovic away to Crystal Palace, Gvardiol and Marmoush facing Wolves at home, Rodgers at home to Fulham, Murphy and Isak away to Brighton, Salah away to Chelsea, and Mateta at home to Forest. And my bench has Verbruggen, Sarr, Munoz and Livramento. I actually am considering Munoz over Saliba here, diversifying my defence a little bit, and that also increases the expected points from 51.5 to 52.2. And Ismaila Sarr could also come into the equation, and perhaps that would be at the expense of Morgan Rogers or Jacob Murphy. And in terms of expected points, let's actually see what they're saying. So yeah, they do rank Ismaila Sarr a little bit higher than both Rogers and Jacob Murphy, so they recommend benching the Aston Villa midfielder. But that's something I'll talk about in my team selection podcast, and I've got one free transfer available, so I might even use that as well. And we'll also discuss Double Gameweek Phase 6 and Blank Gameweek Phase 7 in future videos and podcasts. That could certainly change, as mentioned in the live chat already. So thank you to those that have tuned in. We do have over 200 people watching. Thank you very much. Let's get the likes up to 100 plus to begin with, and then push on towards a bigger number. And the same goes for subscribers, as we're edging towards 33,000 subscribers. So I think we're just over 100 away from that milestone, and maybe by Tuesday's deadline stream in UCL Fantasy, we can get very close to a new goal and a new objective. That is our main one by the end of the season. And let's actually have a quick look and see if there are any updates. So I will be keeping you posted here. So Ben Crellin did put out a tweet, and he did say the following. I can say for sure that Villa and Spurs won't double in Game Week 36 or blank in 37. And I can say that Palace and Wolves might double in 36 and blank in 37. But it doesn't matter how likely I think Double Gameweek Phase 6 is, because nobody should make a transfer until we get an announcement telling us whether Double Gameweek Phase 6 is going to happen. So, yeah, that's pretty straightforward. I also recommend the same thing. I mean, just wait until the deadline stream next week. then we can lock in our teams. Not until the very last minute like I did with my free hit squad. But yeah, it's best not to make any moves just now. We can discuss ideas in this reaction stream and then build upon them in future videos and live streams. But for now, I think we should hold our horses and not make any single transfers just yet. Braden says, who should be captain and who should be in Gameweek 35? Thanks. Well, captaincy is a bit open, like it was for Gameweek 34 arguably, and also in previous game weeks since Salah's dip in form, where there's not a clear standout at the moment. I'd still rank Salah very highly, and there will be a full captaincy list in the next deadline stream, where I'll definitively rank those players. I think Saka would be in my top 5. I know Bournemouth are decent, but I think Saka can do well there. I think Isak away to Brighton is also not too shabby. But yeah, I think Salah, Marmoush, they'd be in my top 3. And I'm currently favouring Marmoush, which you can see on screen, with him as my provisional captain using the website fpl.team. Let me also discuss FPL Challenge, and I've already outscored my Double Gameweek 33 squad with 29 points. I've got Jose Sarr and 8 Nuri here, something I should have done in FPL. Salah's my captain in Bumo, who could be changed to somebody else, but this week, any Forest or Brentford player will have their points doubled. And I did go for Isak up front, and maybe I should have just gone for Chris Wood. And if he gets any return there, he will outscore Isak quite comfortably. Virat says, should we get in Bumo and Bowen? Ideally, yes, and they were both discussed in my best wildcard team video. If I had to prioritize one, it would be Mbeumo, but yeah, I mean, on a wildcard, I think that's a massive advantage to go for both of them simultaneously, and maybe Vissa up front. I need to sell Mateta, Wood or Cunha or Raul. I would not be recommending Raul Jimenez, especially after today, and the best forward would be Chris Wood. I think Cunha isn't too far off, but from a fixtures perspective, I think Cunha is a little bit ahead. Palmer is disappointing under Maresca. I mean, that's something we could definitely debate. He had a good start to the season, but I did say even then that Palmer was hauling, or stat padding, you could say, in a lot of these kind of individual games, like Brighton getting 4 goals. And that's still very impressive, by the way, don't get me wrong, but there was a lack of consistency in his output. He also got a big return against Wolves away, but there you go. United says Palmer's overrated. I never had him in my team until my free hit today. Well, it's funny how things change very quickly, because this time last year he got 4 goals against Everton and people were saying he's the best player in the Premier League, and now he is nowhere near that conversation. He's a young player, he's got a lot of potential, and I think I'm kind of in the middle of it. I never rated Palmer that highly as other people did, saying he's like the best player in the Premier League and that sort of conversation, but I also don't think now he's a fraud and he's just overrated. I think he will get back to a good level, but what he's done recently, from a goal-scoring perspective, which is his main asset in my opinion, has been terrible. I mean, for any player, any attacking player, to not score in 17 games across all comps is just, well, very poor. I mean, we can't sugarcoat it. Hassan says just over 1 million. Really want to finish under 1 million. Also under 100 points in my mini league. Triple captain left to play, we believe. There is still hope. It's going to be difficult, but you still have a chance there. But in terms of finishing in the top 1 million, you can definitely attain that 100%. And 100 points in a mini league can actually vanish in the blink of an eye. Trust me, I've experienced that before. But yeah, triple captain can definitely help you. And if there is no double in 36, which I'll also cover on this channel, then you actually might be tempted by Gameweek 38, which tends to be a very high-scoring game week, and you have a lot of good options in that particular game week, like Saka away to Southampton, Isak facing Everton at home, Salah facing Crystal Palace, also at home. But, of course, that is still a few weeks away. Guys, Dylan included, get over this Palmer FOMO. He has not scored since early January. Well, I actually thought Palmer could do well this week. I mean, you might be right. Subconsciously, there could be an element of FOMO, but if Palmer ended up scoring, you know, I know he didn't, so it's ifs, buts, maybes, and all of that jazz, but I think things do change very quickly and it comes down to fine margins. And the same goes for Jimenez. He had 6 shots today. If he buries one of them, then it looks like an amazing free hit pick, but you need a bit of luck as well to go your way. And Palmer has been poor recently, so going without him is a good decision. But if Palmer ended up hauling, does that suddenly make those that went without Palmer foolish? I don't really think so. Would you rather have Cunha or Martinelli in your team? I mean, are you on about actual team or FPL? I'm guessing this is for my actual team, so Arsenal. Well, Martinelli is a traditional winger and Cunha is kind of an inside forward and he can play up front. Who's the better player? It's Cunha, I'm not going to deny that. But I think they offer different characteristics as well. I can't wait until next season and seeing Cunha in Man United. Finally some ballers. I mean, with Cunha, I said this before, maybe this ages horribly, but I could see him like joining United and then leaving in 2 or 3 years. That's kind of the way I look at it. But a lot depends on context. You know, does Cunha help transform United into a competitive team again? If he does, and you know he doesn't have any attitude problems behind the scenes, then yeah, he can be a brilliant signing, and he stays for even longer than that. But what I've seen this season by Cunha has been really impressive. And there were elements of last season where I actually liked Cunha as well. Before that, I never rated him, you know, at Hoffenheim and Atletico Madrid. But the more I've seen him in the Premier League, the more impressed I've been. Well, I'm doing the stream now, but, you know, once I do end the stream, yes, I'll be having a look at Barcelona Real Madrid. But yeah, at the moment, I'm not watching the Copa del Rey final. Otherwise, I can't read your comments. David says, free hit. I didn't watch any tips. I have the same backline as you in Mbeumo, Salah, Bruno. Had a few chances. Murphy, Isak, Cunha, Wood, and Sells. Well, maybe that's a good thing, you know, not watching any tips and just focusing completely on your own ideas and plans there. But sometimes you kind of just stumble yourself into a team that's very similar to most people, at least those on Twitter and YouTube. I already gave up on my fantasy this season, says Weiseng. Need to go again next season, hoping Chelsea get the Champions League spot. Yeah, look, I get it. Everyone's different, and also you might have a specific objective in mind which you think is not attainable anymore. I still try to push on as much as you can, try to enjoy FPL to the best of your ability. But yeah, I mean, in the end, it's all about having fun in FPL. And if you're not feeling it, then yeah, you don't have to exert yourself too much. So I completely get your viewpoint there. David says, only regret is not getting Bowen last minute. Yeah, Bowen was one of my favourite midfielders this week. I should have probably considered him a little bit more, but there you go. No worries, Joyton. I'm glad my recommendation helped, but unfortunately I don't follow my own advice because Jose Sar's on my bench and Trippier I sold in the last minute or two. Now, I don't think selling Trippier and Leno to Pope and Session is a bad idea. In fact, in terms of points, it's pretty much identical, but Trippier's 15-pointer has stung quite a bit, actually. Harry Dawson says 54 with 6 to go. Justy Isak was disappointing today, but still okay. Hoping Salah gets a 2-pointer. Well, I'm actually hoping Salah does really well. I need it for my head-to-head league and also to gain a little bit more in rank. And I've got no Bournemouth or United players in my 11. I've also got no Brentford or Forest. So that Liverpool triple-up of Trent, Diaz and Salah needs to come in big time for me. Before I go back to my squad, let me show you quickly my predictions for Blank Gameweek 34. So I got 1 correct score so far in Chelsea 1, Everton 0. I was so close to getting Brighton West Ham right. I went for 2-2, but Brighton ended up scoring a terrific winner through Baleba. Newcastle 3, Ipswich Town 0. Southampton 1, Fulham 3, and Wolves 2, Leicester 0. So those were my predictions there. And of course, for tomorrow and Thursday, you can also see the others. To be fair, I also got Newcastle right. So I got 2 correct scores so far, and I was very close. In fact, only 1 goal off getting Brighton West Ham, Fulham, Southampton, and Wolves, Leicester also spot on. So my recent predictions have been better, at least better than my FPL scores and also FPL picks, but that's not very difficult to achieve. So I've gone for Bournemouth 2, Man United 1. I'll probably stick with that prediction since these were made a couple of days ago. Liverpool 3, Tottenham 1. And my hope is that Liverpool keep a clean sheet and Trent starts, gets 60+ minutes. But I'm not feeling too confident about that right now. And Nottingham Forest 1, Brentford 1. Let me know your predictions in the live chat and the comment section as well. Like this video, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single upload or live stream for UCL Fantasy and FPL. And after this reaction stream concludes, I will focus on UCL Fantasy with a best team for matchday 15 and my own team selection coming your way by the Monday. They will be published, and on Tuesday, another deadline stream. But of course, it will be for the Champions League as we approach the first Champions League semi-final with Arsenal versus Paris Saint-Germain. Men in Black says, can anyone beat my free hit bench? Sar 12, Session 11, Bowen 9, and Trent to play. Well, that's difficult to beat. I mean, I've got Jose Sar 12 and Cucurella 6, and I'm not very happy about that. So I can only imagine what you're feeling. United says, we've seen it all. We've won the lot. We're Man United, and we're never going to stop. I hope I never read that out again. Native Faith says, would you do Barnes to Mbeumo captain tonight or wait until Friday for Palmer to Mbeumo captain? I'd wait. 100% I'd wait for more information. I know Mbeumo is probably an upgrade on Palmer, but you might find out something in the next couple of days about Palace and Wolves doubling, which makes you focus your attention elsewhere and buy Cunha up front, for example, or go for Palace assets if you don't have them already. So I think, sorry, you said Barnes. Wait, Barnes to Mbeumo, captain. Yeah, I just wait until Friday to do Palmer to Mbeumo. That would be my advice. I think information is very important. Hopefully Newcastle get the Champions League spot, says David. Well, they've got a great chance. I think they will achieve it. And that was one of my only correct predictions from the beginning of the season. Of course, I didn't expect Liverpool to win the league. But there you go. Yeah, let me know if anyone else is experiencing any issues with the stream, since Fingon has pointed that out. From my end, apparently there are no issues, but maybe there is something afloat there. But yeah, if you are experiencing any buffering or stuff, refresh the page and that should help as well a little bit. Joseph says, I would play Sarr and Munoz over Murphy and Saliba. Yeah, good suggestions. I'm considering that myself. I think Munoz over Saliba with Raya in goal already is definitely on the agenda. And then Sarr, hopefully he can finally do something for me, because I think the best he's done for me is just an assist in Double Gameweek 32 and also against Leicester a couple of months back. How to plan for Double Gameweek 36 after today's result? Well, we don't know the full picture, but as I mentioned a few minutes ago, Ben Krellin said there is a chance of Wolves versus Crystal Palace, blanking in 37 and also doubling in 36, but it's best to wait to make any transfers. The Premier League should confirm something this week before the deadline. And yes, Majid, Raul Jimenez definitely does hurt. I'm never going there again. So yeah, Basuna, hopefully you saw that. I did show my Gameweek 35 squad earlier, and I'll go back to it very shortly. Before I do, though, let's discuss my Gameweek 34 team, which isn't great, but only 2 blanks, looking at the positives and a few big returns there. Andrew says 80 points with Salah, Diaz and Claver to go. And yeah, Cunha captain, fair play. I mean, yeah, it can pay off, you know, going differential or at least challenging the template pick. But look at those that went for Isak as captain. That also didn't go according to plan, albeit he's not as much of a differential captain as Cunha. Raul on Fraud Watch. Well, yeah, unfortunately he is. Did you see Sarr scored twice in the FA Cup? Yes. I mentioned it before. He's got 5 goals and 2 assists against Aston Villa this season across 3 matches with no blanks. What is your plan for 36, 37? Right now, I've got no transfers penciled in. It all depends on if there is a double confirmed for 36 and a blank in 37. But yeah, my idea, without thinking about the doubles too much, is buying in Mbeumo and or Bowen in the midfield. That's something I'm looking at. Chris Wood up front. So I've got several ideas, but in terms of those who could double in 36, those Palace assets, I could end up keeping all of them and maybe buying Cunha up front, or 8 Nuri at the back, maybe doing something a little bit, you know, along those lines. But there is also a balancing act between 36 and 37, as we just experienced with 33 and 34. But yeah, my ideal scenario is just focusing on the single game makers like Bowen, Mbeumo, Vissa, and those sorts of players. Basuna says, should I start double C defense in Diaz and Gavardio, but at the expense of benching Munoz? I think Wolves could score against Man City, to be fair, but it's not a bad idea what you're saying. I'd probably start Munoz over Ruben Diaz, though. Shergar says, was set up for a back 5 of Trippier and Sessegnon with Strand Larsen up front, but benched him and switched Strand Larsen for Raul Jimenez. I mean, I don't really blame you in terms of prioritising attackers and midfielders, and I've done the same thing myself, but I don't think anybody could have expected Trippier to get 15 points, and the red card does help a lot. The same goes for the Newcastle clean sheet in general, which I was quite confident about anyway, but who knows? You just never know how things would have turned out if Ipswich Town didn't get that red card. Gadam says, I chose Kepa for keeper. Yeah, good luck to you. I mean, I'm hoping for the opposite because I want all the Bournemouth assets and United to blank somehow. So 1-1 draw and random players to score, even Semenyo. Come in clutch for me, mate. Alfie Play says, I had Cunha and Trippier in my team, but I got rid of them on Thursday because I got worried Wolves would not perform well, but I got that wrong. Yeah, look, I mean, I also sold Trippier just before the deadline, and we all have our regrets this week. I mean, mine is mainly just going for Jimenez up front. But I'm not sure what points you have right now. Hopefully you've got a good score and a green arrow, and your remaining players can do the business for you. BMAC says, if Man City also go through, a blank Gameweek 37 could be absolute carnage for many with Palace, City, Bournemouth and Wolves heavy squads. How would you be looking? Well, I've got 2 City players in Gavardio and Marmoush. I've also got a triple up in Palace, and I've also got, well, I've got no Bournemouth players right now. But yeah, it would be challenging. Only 1 free transfer as well. I think those that have a lot of moves stacked, they'll be in a great position to tackle the remaining part of the season, or they might have a free hit / wildcard available to navigate this upcoming period. Dylan, did Pope Session outscore Leno Trippier? Well, Trippier got 15 points. Leno got 2, I believe. I need to double check that. Session is going to get 11 points, or he's got 11, it's already confirmed. And Pope got 6. So 17 points versus 17, unless Leno got 3 points. Let me double check that. Leno, yeah, got 2. So it's the exact same score, but I'm still kind of thinking I should have started Jose Sarr, because I actually said it in my deadline stream. I was very tempted to start Jose Sarr, and go for Trippier at the back. So if I'd gone for that, whilst keeping 8 Nura and Sessegnon in my backline, that would have been perfect. And even with Jimenez up front, it'd be a massive gain of, well, it would have been 6 more points in the goalkeeper position, and, well, 15 points, you know, assuming Trent does nothing tomorrow. But yeah, it would have been a massive gain there. Any chance that Alisson or Cliver don't play? Unfortunately, no. I don't think so. Unless there's a late, you know, I don't know. How do I say this? I mean, just like Robinson, you know, apparently his wife gave birth and stuff like that, a personal reason or a late niggle or injury. That's what you're kind of relying on. Best week to play bench boost, probably 36 if indeed we have a double game week, but we don't know yet. So my advice is to wait for the Premier League announcement. Then we'll have the full picture of who blanks in 37 and doubles in 36, if that's even the case. Otherwise, we'll just have normal game weeks, and it would make the last portion of the season a bit easier to manage, potentially. Manish says going to wildcard on Monday. I mean, if you're completely set on wildcarding now, I'd probably just recommend doing it on Saturday, today, so you can get a few price rises as well, but it's completely up to you. Bench Saka, Watkins or Rodgers? I would probably bench Rodgers at the moment, but both Watkins and Rashford would be competing for that spot. Now, Rashford was a miss for Aston Villa today. We have to assess that situation, but apparently it's just a knock. Mukherjee says, I have triple up on Palace, City, Arsenal, and I'm guessing that's Bournemouth. Should I roll or use any transfers? I would not make any moves just yet. And it's difficult for me to say without knowing your team, which players you have apart from those clubs that you just mentioned, and also how many transfers do you have available, any other chips. I think that all plays a big part, but I think Mbumo and or Bowen in the midfield would be great midfielder moves. Up front, you'd be looking at Chris Wood and or Cunha. But yeah, I think just roll for now, and yeah, with more context and also with the Premier League announcement potentially in midweek, I think that's when we can really hone in on these solutions. Jose the Special Mo says, still have the wild card. My plan is to use it after Game Week 35 and hope there'll be a double in 36. It's still possible, mainly with Wolves and Crystal Palace. Let me actually just show people, just in case you're tuning in a little bit later. This is the tweet I just read maybe like 20, 30 minutes ago. Just going to see if there are any more updates or things to look at. All right, so let me bring up this message here. So Ben Krellin posted the following. I can say for sure that Villa and Spurs won't double in 36 or blank in 37. And I can say that Palace and Wolves might double in 36, and that would mean a blank in 37. And yeah, he basically suggests waiting for the Premier League announcement, and I think that's probably the best advice you can give to anybody there. So there you go. I'll leave that on for a few more minutes, and you can leave your thoughts in the live chat too. Yeah, like I said, David, I'm reading out the messages right now. But once the stream has concluded, I will be watching the Copa del Rey final. So yeah, the answer is no. I am not watching it right now. Welcome, Beardy. Good to see you. Alanga or Bruno for Game Week 35? Good question. I would favour Elanga. Yeah, a little bit more, I think, but very close one. That is a good question. Both Foden and Palmer didn't follow up with what they'd done last season. Yeah, I mean, with Palmer, he scored 9 penalties last season. He's got nowhere near to that, but yeah, he's still been doing... Look, Palmer had a fairly decent start in the first half of the campaign. Foden, though, has been kind of terrible from the get-go. I think that's been an even bigger drop-off. 41 points in FPL Challenge with Mbumo left. That's a good score. Virat says Wood or Cunha or Welbeck. Chris Wood is my favourite. but there is a chance that Cunha doubles in 36, so that would make him more appealing in the short term. But I would rank it Chris Wood first, Cunha second, Welbeck third, the way you've basically ordered them. So I did Saka to Mbeumo already, maybe a -4 to bring in Vissa. That's fair enough, but I think the best thing to do is wait with your transfers, because I think that potential double Gameweek phase 6 announcement could really change your plans. Parma under Poch and Maresca is different. Yeah, I mean, maybe Pochettino deserves more credit for Parma's performances, or at least the output, but there are different factors coming into play. I also think Parma's given less space right now in those central areas, and we're seeing the likes of Foden and Odegaard also struggle. Just the Parky says, on 46 with Trent, Salah, Diaz and Evanussen, hopefully they can all do well for you, and I'm really hoping for the best there with Trent, Salah and Diaz, because yeah, that would kind of turn this into a decent free hit into a fairly good one. 83 points of Salah left to play. Yeah, obviously there are a lot of players you're missing out on, but you've got the points in the bag already, so that's looking promising. Not what I hoped for. Same here, Twisted Parky, but hopefully, as I mentioned, we can both end this game week strongly. Yeah, I mean, it does seem like a bit of a swingy week, actually, even though I think a lot of free hitters would have secured a green arrow, but I think the potential was really there to get 80 plus points, for example. BD says, the only reason I picked Palm in my team this game week is to protect myself since everyone got him. Yeah, that's what Harry said earlier in the live chat about people having FOMO, which I completely get. And look, on another day, Palmer gets a return, and then those without Palmer, you know, people will be criticizing those players because they're going without one of the best assets in the game. But there has been a big drop-off this year since January. And look, it wouldn't surprise me now if Palmer does well in Game Week 35, but most of us won't have him. Would you sell Saka to Mbeumo? I'd be tempted, but I still think Saka's an underrated captaincy option against Bournemouth. Fonda says it starts. I'm guessing this is obviously now like in 4 minutes, right? Is the game on now? It's at 9 PM, right? Yeah, so you said this a long time ago, but I'm catching up on earlier messages. I think Barcelona win 5-1. I don't think it'll be a 5-1. I mean, I think Barca win, but oddly enough, with Mbappe not in the starting 11, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing for Real Madrid, with them playing a 4-4-2 diamond, which gave them a lot of success last year. I think it might go extra time and penalties, I'm not going to lie. That's the kind of feeling I get. Hopefully not Alex. Hopefully Trent does start. Bader says 59 points, sells Milenkovic, Salah and Gibbs-White still to play. Yeah, decent score, and you've got a lot of players left, which is good. And despite Gibbs-White clashing with Milenkovic and Sells, I think you're going to get one return from that game. Twister Parky says, do you think I have a chance of agreeing with Trent, Evanussen, Salah, captain and DS left? Yes, but what I'd encourage you to do is check out websites like livefpl.net and see how many points you are away from a green arrow, the safety score, so to speak, because I'm not sure what kind of score you're looking at to attain that green arrow, but it's possible, albeit very difficult and challenging, because it seems to be a high-scoring week. Pieter says, I had Brighton, West Ham 2-2 and Southampton, Fulham 1-1. Yeah, I also went for the same Brighton scoreline, and Fulham I went for 3-1, not 2-1. But I ended up getting two correct scores, the Newcastle and Chelsea ones, and with every other one, I was basically one goal off. But there you go. And Wolves winning 3-1. And look, if Vardy scores that penalty, you would be absolutely spot on, and Jose Sa on my bench doesn't look that bad, but it's funny how things turn out. Onesie Celsius says, Kudus finally scored when I considered him, but since there were many other mids, I didn't go. Yeah, but even then, Bowen got 2 assists, and to be fair, not a lot of midfielders did that well so far, but you've got Salah, Diaz tomorrow, you've got Cliver, and maybe the likes of Fernandes, and, you know, a few others here and there, Elanga, Gibbs-White, but all of them can do well. Thank you, Pieter, for the update. I appreciate it, but yeah, on YouTube and on my software, it does seem like everything is going smoothly. Simon F says, do you think Saka gets benched? The rest time between the Champions League games is quite good, but they might still rest him against Bournemouth. Selling him for Mbeumo is on the cards. Yeah, it's possible. I'm not going to lie. And he was benched against Brentford and Everton for a reason, actually. And the same goes for the Fulham game where he just made the comeback. And Arsenal have literally nothing to play for. I know some people will say, what about securing second? And, you know, you've got Newcastle breathing down your neck. I mean, that's fair enough. But yeah, the ultimate goal and the aim is the Champions League. And if Saka getting a rest there and just a few minutes off the bench, you know, helps him for the second leg, I think it's just worth managing his minutes. So you are right. It is possible he gets benched or at least be subbed off early. And I think Mbuma's the best replacement for him. So you're definitely onto something there. Just Parky says, I wish I'd gone with Cunha and Strand Larsen, but glad I tried to go different. I did think about captaining him and having Strand Larsen too. Yeah, Cunha captain, he was third in my list. There was a slight concern because Bellegarde was back in the fray, but I was very consistent saying I think he will start. It's just a little bit of a risk on paper. But yeah, I think we all have our kind of regrets, but also maybe some things we did well, which you might not be thinking about. But in hindsight, you know, I changed the captaincy from Isak to Salah. That could end up being a great decision. I went for Session in the end to cover Fulham, not Leno or Robinson. But yeah, we all will focus on the negatives or the things that didn't go for us this week. I wanted top 10k at 30k, not going to happen. It's going to be difficult, but I wouldn't rule out completely. If you have a great end to the season, then it will be attainable. But yeah, 30k is still a great rank. I wish I was there right now, but I need to focus on getting into the top 100k first and then building upon it. But yeah, this free hit has been a bit underwhelming. I mean, for example, if I, as I mentioned before, started Jose Sarr, went for Trippier, and kept Session and 8 Nuri in my 11, I'd be in the top 100k already. It goes to show how these fine margins can really turn out to be. Nika says 57 and 5 players to go. With captain, that's good. I'd rather be in that position than mine, with 59 points and only 3 players left. Salah captain as well. Hey Dylan, do you think Newcastle got robbed of a penalty? I only saw it once, and it did seem like his hand was kind of close to his body. I mean, I have seen that kind of penalty being given, especially in the Champions League, but I think it would have been a little bit harsh. An amazing gimmick for me, says Insane Gamer. Isak captain, minus 12 taken, and got 62 points. Nicely done. I think, considering you don't have a free hit, that is a very good score. Craig Wright says Vardy did miss a penalty that made quite a difference to 8 Nuri's score. Yeah, it's a shame. I kind of wish Craig scored. Yeah, wait, did I just say I kind of wish Craig scored? I kind of wish Vardy scored the penalty, but it is what it is. What do you plan to do different in an ideal world next season, not including getting more points? Well, I mean, having a bit more luck would be nice, but in terms of what I can do to improve my chances of getting luck, maybe be different. Yeah, I think thinking outside the box. But the thing is, I generally just go for what I think is going to be the highest scoring team, and a lot of times that isn't the case. But yeah. From the last couple of years, basically what I do is basically not look at any teams on Twitter or YouTube and just focus on myself and have my own ideas. But I think thinking outside the box is probably the main thing, because I kind of naturally gravitate towards maybe the safer picks with the captaincy and also the with decisions, maybe in terms of when I use a chip or when I bring in certain players, for example. I mean, I triple captain Haaland in Game Week 2, which wasn't like a template pick, so to speak. So that was a little bit different and bold, but I think more of that sort of decision would have come good. On the whole, I can't really regret my captaincy decisions too often this season. I mean, I went for Salah most of the time since Game Week 10, and he was the kind of go-to until Game Week 29, basically. But I think probably going for more differentials is definitely going to be the one, and hopefully I will force myself to go in that sort of direction. I have Jose Sarr, Session, 8 Nuri, and Trippier at the back. That is pretty much my dream backline, and that would have been amazing for me this week to get into the top 100k. So that was what I was referring to earlier. Rashford apparently has a hamstring injury. Yeah, I saw a tweet, I think by FPL Villain, that said it could be a serious injury. But then there was an Aston Villa correspondent, I'm not sure who it was, a journalist who indicated that it's only a knock. But yeah, if it's a hamstring injury, then he could be out for the rest of the season. I have 3 Bournemouth players in my team. Do you think they'll do well? I've gone for 2-1 Bournemouth. So yeah, I think the likes of Clive can do something. The same goes for Ivanoson. Twisted Parky says, at the moment, I need 54 points a week for the personal score. Ooh. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. You're only a few points away. So yeah, I'd say a small green arrow is attainable. Thank you, Nugable. Hopefully I haven't butchered your name. Fair play to you for showing up and going live when you don't have an amazing week. Well, I've had worse weeks than this one, trust me, but I appreciate it. Saturdays just aren't great for me in FPL this season. I'm not sure why. Hopefully Sunday is much better, and I get the ideal scenario. Bournemouth United all blanking, basically, and Liverpool doing the job with Trent, Diaz and Salah. But we all have our own wishes and hopes, don't we? BD says, I took a crazy -20 and it worked. Got all the picks correct. To anyone that's scared to take hits, don't be. It could work out. Yeah, look, hits can definitely pay off, even in a game like this where I probably would have advised against it. But there are examples, and I've taken a -20 in the past, by the way, and it's gone tits up horribly wrong, and I ended up losing out on points, and yeah, it can go both ways, but generally speaking, I always advise people to kind of try to be cautious, patient, and also very methodical with their transfers, but everyone has a different play style, and for some people, that sort of -20 or being aggressive can really work for them. Twisted Parky says, I lost the plot for a while when Vardy missed a penalty. I thought Pope had saved it. I'm guessing that's Jose Sarr. Flu messes up with your mind. Oh, right. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I understand your message. Yeah, I mean, when I saw Vardy miss the penalty, I feared the worst. And yeah, Jose Sarr on my bench, 12 points. That's the biggest goalkeeper score I've ever had on my bench, actually. Twisted Parky says, I've been too cautious of hits, not stacked up on transfers, and used triple captain too early, although FA Cup we thought meant could not carry too many chips. Yeah, that was one of the main reasons why I triple captain Haaland, and also he was in great form that summer, looked sharp against Chelsea in Game Week 1, and faced an Ipswich side that conceded chances to Liverpool in the opener. So I had no regrets about triple captaining Haaland there, but of course those that did it against Southampton a few weeks after, in Game Week 9 I think, would have been kicking themselves, but that's where you need a lot of luck sometimes, and I had it with Haaland with a triple captaincy. Jay-Zia says, Captain Cunha, despite all the talk of him not playing. Yeah, just to be clear, I thought he would start, but there was an element of doubt which I thought was worth mentioning because Bellegarde was back in the fray, and Cunha got close to 90 minutes. In fact, he got more, game time than the likes of Strand Larsen. When do I play my AM? Game Week 35 or 36. Do not play it afterwards because it's a free Game Week chip, and you don't want to miss out on a Game Week in the process, but I'd lean towards now, actually, if you have a preference there. Paolo says, hi Dylan, why when I bought Harvey Barnes he is not doing anything? Well, he's been brilliant, in the last couple of weeks, and unfortunately these players are human and they can't return in every single game. Even Messi and Ronaldo in their prime, whilst they did it very often, they also had their off games, right? But yeah, I thought Barnes would do well this week against Ipswich, especially given that he started. Jacob Murphy only gained 3 points on him, so it's not really a massive concern. Those that did really well from the Newcastle game would have tripled up on the defence or doubled up there, and Trippier was definitely one of the standouts. Twisted Parky says maybe to score more points next season you need more Sunday players. Well, that's the thing though. I think generally speaking this season, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I've had a lot of Sunday or Monday players. So actually on the Saturday I didn't have that many. This week in Blank Gameweek 34 is different, so I've only got 3 players left now, but yeah, I think this season it has been the opposite actually. Yeah, Copa del Rey is starting, but like I said, I'm reading out messages, so I'll go back to that when the stream is over. Simon F says, your week can still go very well. Fingers crossed, I'm rooting for a big Liverpool win to celebrate the title. Yeah, congratulations, it's well deserved. I think Liverpool have been by far the best Premier League team this season, and yeah, I'm hoping as well for Liverpool to, at least from an FPL perspective, to do the business, but I don't know. There's still an element of doubt about Trent starting or not. I think he will, but I'm less convinced now than I was before the deadline. And Diaz is still a little bit of a risk, but I would back him to start. And then it's just between Gakpo or Jota. Hopefully they all get the nod and big returns are imminent. Alfie Play says, if Spurs do well next season, they would be great for FPL if Ange stays. Are you sure? If Ange stays? And I don't think that will be the case, by the way. If Spurs are knocked out in the semi-final somehow, I think Ange is gone. He really is. But I think Spurs will reach the final this season. And as for next year, yeah, I mean, Spurs have to improve. I mean, what they've done now is frankly embarrassing. The same goes for Man United. I think both of them will massively improve next year, and the summer will be very important. Sydney says playing 4 defenders instead of Palmer paid off big time. Fair play. Double-digit hauls from Sessegnon, Trippier and Aït-Nouri with Trent left to play. Only gutted that I went for Leno instead of Sarr. Well, that is a differential in of itself, to bench Palmer for a defender and go for 4 at the back. I wish I'd done that myself, or at least have gone for Jose Sarr and Trippier whilst keeping Aït-Nouri and Sessegnon. But there you go. You had the dream defensive line. Whilst man has been good so far, there's no doubt about it, still a few missed opportunities there. Dylan, I didn't see the Chelsea-Everton game. Did Palmer have any shots on goal? Well, I only watched the highlights for that particular game, to be honest. I don't think Palmer had any shots on goal. I'll double check that for you. He had a decent performance from what I heard, but yeah, I don't think he had, definitely not any clear-cut opportunities. So if I actually go, so yeah, he created 2 chances and had no shots at all. Not even a block shot. So yeah, pretty underwhelming there. Cole Palmer, where are you? We all wanted something this week, but there you go. Twisted Parky says, anyone here play fantasy when it was run by newspapers and was not on the net? I only played my 6th season on the website, fifth 4. Yeah, definitely not me. I didn't even know fantasy games existed when that was the case. There are news that Ange will be sacked whether Spurs win Europa League or not. Looks like a Daniel Levy move. Well, being 17th in the Premier League, I mean, the last time Spurs finished in this sort of position was 20 years ago, I think. They were in a relegation battle in 2007, 2008. So it has been a long time. Of course, they weren't in a relegation battle because the newly promoted teams are now back down, unfortunately. Just Parky says, I triple captain Haaland versus Southampton. Only got 7 points on my bench boost. Actually, my season position and points could be worse. Yeah, those chips, of course, very disappointing for you. I do think both are overrated, especially the bench boost. And I actually did fairly well, I think, last season with that chip. But it's really a kind of chip that I like getting out of the way more than anything else. Does anyone know why Sessegnon got such a big haul? No clean sheet and only 1 goal? Well, it was the winning goal. I'm assuming that plays a big part. So, of course, a defender getting a goal is already going to be very nice for bonus points. But I think scoring a winning goal does actually add a little bit more to the BPS. Palmer was the least threatening attacker from Chelsea today. Yeah, in terms of goal scoring, you're definitely right. He did create a few chances and was good on the ball, but didn't really look that threatening. You are right. Metro Fantasy Football, says Jojo. Well, nice flashback there to the past by Jojo and Tustapaki. A Daniel Levy move is to sack the coach before the final, like he did with Jose. Yeah, that is completely spot on. And I actually think Jose could have won that final, even though he's up against Pep Guardiola and Man City. Potentially Mike, and I think Mbeumo or Bowen would be a great replacement. I'm actually considering it myself, and Saka's been so disappointing for me. In fact, in UCL Fantasy and FPL, Saka's been one of the more frustrating players for me. You know, got a massive return against Monaco when I didn't have him. And then obviously against Real Madrid, I know he ended up scoring, but he missed a penalty, blanked in the first leg. And in FPL, mate, he was getting 18 pointers, 13 pointers against Forest and West Ham. I buy him in, blanks, gets injured, and I basically burnt him. So I think I need to avoid Saka and Arsenal players. I think Jose would have won that final. Definitely possible. And at that point, I know Pep also had a great cup record, but I believe Mourinho was the only one to beat him in a cup final. What price of Palmer in FPL next season with his current form? He's still going to be high. He's not going to be less than 10 million. Let me just say that now. In terms of a specific price tag, sorry, what am I doing? Let me go here to my points and also go to this screen. So a Palmer price prediction. I think he'll be 10 million. 10 million. He started this season at 10.5 if I'm not... No, didn't he start at 11? I think he did. Yeah, he started at 11. It seems like such a long time ago. Let's double check that. Now, he cost 10.5 million, right? Yeah. Okay, yeah, 10 million. I think is a decent shout. There is a chance he goes to 9.5, but I'd say 10. That is a good shout, Tustapaki. I'd probably say Mbeumo is 8.5 to 9 because he plays for Brentford. I mean, he could get a move to another club, which would change it, but I'd say, if I had to guess, I think Mbeumo would be 9 million. Tustapaki says, I think I might sell Saka. With all the doubles, might have other things to do. Exactly that with Wolves and Crystal Palace. Yeah, Saka to Mbeumo is on my priority list. The same goes for Jared Bowen. So a lot of people have mentioned selling Saka, and obviously that can go one of two ways. If Saka starts, I think he's a good captaincy option against Bournemouth, but the minutes are going to be a concern. The best captain for Gameweek 35, I'm currently going for Marmoush, but that isn't locked in. I don't think there's a clear standout, but I will provide a top 10 definitive list in the deadline stream next week. MVRX Rapids says currently on 53 points with 5 to play. Yeah, that's good. I mean, technically, you have 6 players left with the captain. Depending on who your other players are, and I'm assuming Salah's one of them, I think that's very good. I'd rather be in your position than mine. Sydney says, who's the best captain? Yeah, I think Marmoush would be right up there for me. Mbeumo, not a bad shout. I think Mbeumo would be, maybe overlooked by some people, but United is now a green fixture on the FDR. Simon F says, who do you think is the best defender for the remaining games if there are no more doubles? Still got Gabriel on my bench. Already have Van Dijk, Gvardiol, Saliba, and Livramento. Yeah, good question. I think Milenkovic, he faces Leicester at home in Gameweek 36. Decent fixtures on the whole, and Forest have been solid defensively in most matches, but one thing that we have seen with them is that when they kind of get things wrong tactically or in a certain game, they can concede multiple goals and chances in that specific match, like the 5-0 loss to Bournemouth, a few 3-0 losses to Man City and Arsenal and stuff like that. But I think Milenkovic could be a decent one. If any new player in the Premier League debuts in FPL, who will it be and what will their price be? Oof, I mean, you mentioned Osimhen earlier, didn't you, in the deadline stream? Gyökeres is linked to Nottingham Forest and Arsenal. Maybe him. And then you're looking at 9.5 million, 9 million. Yeah, I think Gyökeres is one that springs to mind. Hopefully Arsenal do sign him if they can't get Isak. Jacob de Lima says, generally, what do we think of the lap punt for the final 2 weeks? Well, I'm not going to discourage people from taking punts. I think it's good to be different and diversify yourself, but there is a balancing act, and differentials can sometimes go wrong. It did for me with Raul Jimenez this week, but it's not always the case. Yeah, I think the lap, not a bad choice, I think, for the last 2 game weeks. I mean, facing Leicester away and West Ham at home, I could see him scoring at least 1 goal in those 2 matches, and he is by far the best Ipswich Town asset, that's for sure. Twisted Parky says, early on I had Saka instead of Palmer. I just preferred Saka, but Palmer had a great period. Got in Boomer early when he was pretty low owned and avoided in Cuckoo. Never got him when everyone kept going on about him. Yeah, Boomer was very solid for me, and I kept him when he was sold in droves. Then he got 19 points against Southampton. There were some blanks in there, but he also got some good returns against Arsenal, for example. Yeah, I also had Saka and not Palmer. Then I went to Palmer after his 4 goals against Brighton, and he was very underwhelming for me. So he has been hit or miss in most game weeks. Easy says, what's your prediction for top 3 players that will rise and players that will go down? Well, Palmer could be one of them to 10 million. It's not a massive price drop, to be fair. Salah, I think will go up to 14 million, 13.5. I think that's safe to say. He did start this season at 12.5, didn't he? Or 13 million? It's been such a long time that I've actually forgot. I think he was at 13 million, wasn't he? No. He was priced at 12.5. He's gone up in price so much. Yeah, I think Salah would be 14 million. Yeah, something like that. Who else? Imbumo going up to 9 million would be another one. Clivert, 7.5 to 8 million. I think that's fair to say. So those are some price risers for you. In terms of price fallers, so yeah, Palmer I mentioned, so 10 million. It's kind of a 0.5 million price drop. I think Watkins could go down a little bit. Oh, by the way, Chris Wood. Yeah, he's going to go up in price to like 8.5, 8 million. Remember, he started at 6 million. So yeah, Chris Wood is another significant price riser for me. Cunha, if he stays in the Prem, will also be like 8.5, I think, especially if he goes to Man United or a different club. Yeah, this another price riser, also 8 to 8.5 million. I think 8 is probably a bit more realistic, but focusing on the price fallers now, interesting. I think, yes, easier to predict the ones who will go up in price. Those going down, maybe the major ones will happen in the defense or goalkeeper position. I think maybe we could see some Spurs midfielders going down, like Maddison to 7 million or 6.5. Maybe that's a bit too low, but I think Maddison 7 million could be a price drop. Ooh, who else? Surely there's someone else I'm forgetting here. Oh, Son. Yeah, Son, Foden. Okay, so I think Son could go down to 8.5. Yeah. And another one would be, yeah, Foden, also similar 8.5. So I think that answers your question. So thank you to those that have liked the video. If you haven't already, Be sure to do so. Plug away the likes. Also hit the notification bell and all that good stuff. Yeah, Haaland will go down, true. Haaland, I mean, he was 50 million this year. I think 13 million would be reasonable, 13.5. I don't think he'll go down that much, though. So, yeah, 13 is probably a bit too low. 13.5 to 14. Haaland drop, Darwin and Son. Yeah, Semenyo would go up in price, I think. Yeah. Yeah, Son definitely drop, I agree. Jimenez wasn't a differential on the free hit, I guess, but his effective ownership was still not that bad. My predicted price rises, Salah, Cunha, and Bumo. Foden, Palm, and Son down. Yeah, I agree with that. Eddie K says, hi Dylan, would you do Savinho to Mbumo tonight? Yeah, so I do recommend holding off and waiting for more information, but in your case, it's a massive upgrade. Mbumo is also a solid transfer. I'd do it, but I have to stress that the Gameweek Phase 6 double could completely change how you view your other transfers and the moves you want to make. But I'd do it, yeah. With potential Man City double, not so sure a good idea, or wait till 36 and do Saka to Mbumo. Well, yeah, Saka's another one you could sell, to be fair, but yeah, I get your point. And Saka's minutes could be managed. So it's a difficult one. I think, you know what? Probably just wait. Wait for more information. And if City double in 36, you'd be quite happy with that. But I think it's more so Palace and Wolves that could double in 36, by the way. More so than City. But we'll get an official confirmation, hopefully, before the Gameweek Phase 5 deadline. It's a good question. In most scenarios, I do recommend holding off, to be quite honest with you. MV Rapids also says, I have Salah captain, Trent, Diaz, Evanescence, and Kluivert. Yeah, good platform of players in my opinion. Mbumo will probably go up. Vissa and Murphy. Yeah, Murphy as well to 6.5 million. Hassan says, Raya, Areola, Saliba, Konsa, Munoz, Gavardio, Wan-Bissaka, Saka, Rogers, De Bruyne, Bowen, and Mbumo, Wood, Isak, Marmush. Thoughts? I do want to get back in Salah. Yeah, possibly for De Bruyne, but then again, you might want to keep the C assets, especially for those plum fixtures, so it's not going to be easy. To be honest, you might have to sell Saka, and that could be a blessing in disguise. I think if you can afford that sort of move, then Saka to Salah looks very solid. Yeah, the rest of your midfield looks very good, to be fair, with Mbumo and Bowen. Frontline is probably what I'd want to go to for the end of the season. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Salah in for Saka, but you might not have the funds necessary. What about Bruno Fernandes? Yeah, still a good option on the free hit. Sorry, on the free hit. Let's forget about the free hit. He's still a good option for the remaining game weeks, but I do prefer Bowen and Mbumo. For the next 3 game weeks, start in Ruben Diaz, Saliba, Gavardio, Konsa, Munoz. Gavardio, Munoz, and Saliba. Celsius says Kudus. Simon says Son. Good suggestions. Kai FPL says 5 minutes before the deadline, I took out Cunha for Raul. Still got 67 points, but yeah, what could have been if you also went for Cunha? I also hate the fact that I went for Raul Jimenez, so you're not the only one. If players like Rodri, who are injured the entire season, will his price go down? Well, Rodri's not really an FPL asset anyway, but it's a good question. I mean, his price could go down a little bit, but it won't be a massive one. I mean, he started the season at 6.5, so we could see him at 6 million, but it would be a little bit harsh. I don't see him changing too much from 6 to 6.5. He definitely won't go up in price unless FPL do something where they make everyone more expensive, and he won't be significantly more cheaper at 5.5 or below. Hopefully not Beardy, because he's on my bench, but like I said before, we all have our different kind of wants and wishes. Thank you, Eddie K. Let me know what you end up doing. But it is a good question with the Savio Saka debacle. I'm not a big fan of Savio in the first place. He's only got 1 goal in the Premier League, but he does have the assist potential. And if City double, then yeah, you could end up regretting selling him. So I get your point. Yusuf says 69 points of Diaz, Salah, Captain, and Trent remaining. That's good. Bench has Sessegnon, Bowen, Cucurella. That's a stacked bench. I should have listened to my gut feeling and not played Palmer. It is what it is, though. I mean, Palmer wasn't a terrible pick, but the form just quite isn't there yet. Easy says, or player who goes on loan to another league or another team in the league this season, then back in the Premier League next season. Yeah, I mean, difficult to predict that sort of thing. We can talk about this in the summer when things become a bit clearer in terms of transfer activity. Yusuf says, had double Wolves attack, Strand Larson and Cunha, Iwobi, Trippier, Sanchez, Neri, Isak. Yeah, good player. Strand Larsen a little bit underwhelming, but trust me, I would rather have that 6-pointer than Jimenez's 1. Yusuf says, I think Palmer is droppable going forward. His body language is horrible and doesn't seem to get involved in the final third. He's not in my team anyway. I don't need to worry about him, but yeah, Mbeumo and Bowen are at the top of my midfielder list, and both of them are viable replacements for Cole Palmer. Dylan, if teams double in phase 6, who are the likely doublers? Wolves and Palace, according to Ben Crellin, which I mentioned earlier in this stream. But it's worth not making any transfers just now. Wait until the deadline next week, and hopefully by then we have an official statement by the Premier League, and then we can finalise our transfers and be very satisfied with our final chip strategies and moves for the season. But yeah, I think Wolves and Palace are the most likely. The likes of Aston Villa and Spurs will not double in 36, and that means no blank for them in 37, because Aston Villa were knocked out of the FA Cup at the hands of Crystal Palace. We needed them to reach the FA Cup final for them to have that double alongside Tottenham Hotspur. So thank you to those that have tuned in today. This has been another stream, because of course I did go live for the deadline earlier. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe for new. If you enjoy my content, our aim is to get this to as many likes as possible and to keep on pushing towards new goals like very free file subscribers, our main objective by the end of the season. Follow me on X, Instagram and Blue Sky, Dylan RCM, and check all the other links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, further access to my videos, amongst many other perks. The Discord server, FPL and FPL Challenge Leagues, as well as Spotify can also be found in the description. A massive shout out goes to Paredes, who gifted 10 memberships earlier in the deadline stream, also sent in a super chat and gifted many memberships in recent Use Your Fantasy deadline streams as well. Just to Parkeepers' team, what would you change? Well, ideally Verbruggen, but I don't think that's really a priority transfer. I'm also in a similar boat. I would look at potentially selling Saka to Mbeumo. That's something that could end up being on the cards for me in the coming days. I think Mateta is definitely someone you could keep for now, and Palace could double in 36. Now, it would make 37 a bit more difficult to manage, but I could see myself actually rolling for the next couple of weeks, maybe buying Cunha, then having 2 free transfers for Gameweek 37, and then trying to have a starting 11 for that blank Gameweek. But I'll be honest, I think that blank looks terrible for me, because I've got a full 11 right now, but it's a triple up of Arsenal against a triple up of Newcastle, and I would have potentially 3 Palace players blanking, so it's not looking too promising there. Insane Gamer says, this Gameweek has given me more confidence in trying to rank up, gained 500k. That is a massive rank rise, and I'm glad to hear it. Of course, I've heard your complaints and issues with FPL, and don't worry, I also agree with you for the most part. But yeah, that will definitely be a confidence booster, and hopefully you can end this season very strongly. How does your team look for next week? I did cover this earlier with fpl.team, and I will also delve into this in the team selection. Same with Organ, who asked about projected points. I did cover this in the stream, so feel free to rewind and refresh. Before I go off, since I am in the outro screen, I will go to it. But like I said, this has been already addressed. So West Ham, City, Villa, Forest and Crystal Palace are in the top 5 for the FDR. Those near the bottom include Chelsea, Liverpool, Brighton, Newcastle and Arsenal. With predicted points, we've got Mateta in 10th, De Bruyne, Cunha, Marmoush, Visser, Mbeumo, Isak, Palmer, Saka and Salah. I'm not sure what Palmer's doing so high up, but watch him do really well now when we don't have him. With the assistant manager from Gameweeks 35 to 37, and by the way, for those with the chip remaining, I'd use it now. You can use it in 36, but do not use it afterwards, otherwise you will not get the full free Gameweeks from the most powerful chip in the game. So Pep, Hurstler, Postecoglou, Glasner and Arteta are the top 5 suggestions there. And with price changes, we could see a lot, but not all of them will happen, in my opinion. Joao Pedro, Quansah, Gabriel, Dubravka, Savio, Saliba, Eze, Dean, Sarr, Munoz, Asensio, Saka, Mateta and Marmoush could all go down in price tonight, while Sessegnon, Van Dijk and Trippier could all go up, according to Fantasy Football Hub. And livefpl.net have gone for something similar, which I also addressed earlier in this stream. And the top 10k captains, Salah has been by far and away the most captained there. Isak is second, and those that went for Cunha, fair play, a 15-point mega return. And if Salah betters that, then there's not much you can really do about it. But it's going to be very difficult, even for Salah, to better that score. And if we also go to fpl.team, this is my provisional Gameweek 35 squad. I'm actually considering starting Munoz over Saliba and diversify my defense a little bit. and Sarr could come in for either Jacob Murphy or Morgan Rogers, but that will be discussed in my team selection. And if we get an announcement about a double Gameweek in 36 and then of course a blank in 37, that could also influence my transfer plans. But in Mbumo and or Bowen could come in for the midfield, and I think Saka is on the chopping block. So for example, I think in Mbumo in for Saka, and then using that extra money to upgrade Murphy or Rogers to Bowen, that looks very solid. I wouldn't mind taking a hit for that this week, actually. I'm very happy with it. But I've also got Sarr on my bench, and that could be another decent scoring bench in my opinion. Of course, Gameweek 34, the less said about that, the better. And finally, FPL Challenge. I've got 29 points so far. I went for Jose Sarr this time to double up on the Wolves defence. Aiden getting 11 points in the process. Salah's captain, Isak up front, and Mbumo is there because this week in FPL Challenge, any Forest or Brentford player will score double the number of points. So there you go. That concludes the Blank Gameweek 34 reaction stream, previewing Gameweek 35 in the process. Let me know your thoughts in the live chat. Enjoy El Clasico or anything else you are doing and the rest of your weekend as well. My plan is to record UCL fantasy videos tomorrow and or Monday, but if not, they will be published on Monday. That's the main thing. A best team podcast combining the best wildcard and limitless squads into one, and also my team selection where I've got 5 free transfers, and in my opinion I can essentially build a very solid 15-man squad which can compete with the limitless and wildcard teams that I'll be discussing very soon. And on Tuesday there is yet another deadline stream for UCL fantasy for matchday 15. I'll answer all your questions there as always, and FPL content for Gameweek 35 is also headed your way. Everything you need to know for both fantasy formats is covered on this channel. Follow me on these platforms, X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, and all the other links can also be found in the description, Spotify, Patreon, the championships, all of that jazz. Thank you, Punjabi. Good night as well. See you in the Gameweek 35 content. Likewise, mate. Thank you, Simon F. Twisted Parky says, what about the lineup I plan to roll at the moment? So yeah, that has been talked about a little bit. So I am looking at that Gameweek 35 lineup at the moment, but of course nothing is set in stone, and I think that announcement that we could get over the coming days could influence my transfer plans. But Mbumo for Saka is definitely on the cards, and I might even buy Bowen for a -4 here. That sort of move or transfers could really help me be different to the rest of the pack and separate myself from the template. Simon F says Real Madrid have been very poor so far, and Celsius says Barca have scored. So I'll be tuning into that very soon. Ahmed says another great show in the books. Thank you very much, Ahmed. Very kind of you. Thank you, Twisted Parky. I meant my team. Okay, I can go through that very quickly. Ahmed says, thanks so much, brother. Thank you for tuning in. Okay, so starting 11 for Twisted Parky, I would go for Raya in goal. I would start Gvardiol. I wouldn't mind Van Dijk, to be fair. But, yeah, Gvardiol, Van Dijk, and Munoz. I'd bench Saliba and Burn. I would start Salah, Saka right now, who could turn into Mbumo for you. I would also go for Murphy over Sarr at the moment, but that is something I'm considering changing over the coming days. And I'd start all your attackers, Marmoush, Mateta, and Isak. Let me know what you think there, Twisted Parky. We can continue this conversation in the comments section, in the Discord server, and all these social media platforms. So thank you everyone for tuning in. It has been another great stream. It's always good talking to you. Take care, enjoy the football, and have a great weekend. I'll see you for those UCL fantasy videos and live streams. The same goes for FPL. And on Tuesday, the Matchday 15 deadline stream is headed your way. Take care.